welcome to Art Spot. My name is Bryn, this is Mason. Today we're talking about Zentangle, coloring books, different kinds of doodling that have been kind of touted as stress relief or even art therapy. We'll be busting some of the myths about what the difference between doodling and coloring and art therapy actually are. We'll be joined by a special guest today, so stay tuned.
I feel like no time like the present. I could really use some stress relief.
Yeah, these are stressful times, and stressful times call for de-stressful measures, so we'll see what happens.
That's what we're here for.
Alright, so what is a Zentangle? So Zentangle is kind of this meditative art guide that has been kind of swirling around the art scene for a couple of years now. It's all these intricate drawings that you do yourself that kind of are just like flowing into each other. And it's a lot about pattern making.
I've always thought about it as this is a system that you can use to, it gives you permission to break through whatever blockages of, I can't make art that you may have built up over the years that you've been telling yourself, other people have been telling you that. A lot of simplistic designs, what I've taken away from Zentangle, having looked through a couple of the books, is you can start really simply and expand on it to create something that is as complex as you feel comfortable making it. Once you kind of have a good understanding of these basic patterns and techniques and how they flow together, like you said, then, really you can take that in any direction you want.
We're here to help you guys get started.
Right.
So let's get started.
Yeah, this is some of the similar paper we had in our Inktober kit. Really good for pen and ink. It's Bristol. Smooth surface.
We also just put together a Zentangle kit that is available through the Edmonds Localvore site. So you can scroll through the site to see how you can support a whole bunch of different downtown Edmonds local businesses, and ArtSpot is on there. We have a couple different, kits, and one of them is centered all around Zentangle. So it includes these point liner pens, a Zentangle guide, a really cool pencil, and one of these artist tile squares.
The concept of being able to do one thing many times until, I don't know, it's either sort of perfect for its own intent or it is done. That's something that I always found to be very relaxing.
Yeah, and it's interesting, just seeing kind of where your mind goes and kind of letting your mind kind of space out and letting muscle memory kind of take over and just see what you end up drawing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is appealing about these kind of loosely constructed doodles is that you can start and finish them with very low pressure. In the sense that you can just work on it for 15 minutes while you're waiting for your coffee to brew, or, while you're waiting at the DMV. You could probably get a lot done then.
You find a napkin somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And that is the perfect canvas for something like this.
Yeah, so I think that it kind of has, tapped into people's desire to do a very, low pressure kind of art, low stakes art, where you're just creating and kind of letting your mind wander without necessarily being I am going to render this person or thing or idea. I'm just drawing. We are joined today by Elizabeth Bellmer. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a mental health counselor, and I went to Antioch University and have a double major in clinical counseling and art therapy. And I live here in Edmonds. And at one time I worked at ArtSpot for a couple of years.
So you practice and you work with people via art therapy. How do you use art as a tool in that process?
When I have a client who comes in who maybe has a hard time discussing an issue or doesn't really know how to express themselves, then I might start with them on some art therapy, which is a directive that I might give them to begin express emotion on paper.
So whereabouts would you sort of think that because I feel like there's a very clear line between art therapy, art as therapy, and this sort of relaxation, stress relief that is maybe a bit more accessible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think art in therapy is what psychotherapists use.
Mm-hmm.
Art as therapy is more what someone can use to help them relax, reduce anxiety, be in the moment. You employ mindfulness practice to concentrate on something where they're not worried about what's going to happen in the future or what has happened in the past. So it's really being mindful. It's using art to, as you said, to relax and be comforted, really. I just want to express a little bit about the beneficial aspects of the coloring books. And the reason is that I ask people if they want to do a coloring book, they can definitely do that. But the challenge with the coloring book is to not be within the lines all the time. To get them sometimes, if they're very rigid or perfectionists, to get them to work in a coloring book, and not as an art therapy directive, but if you like doing coloring books, please go ahead, but don't work always inside the lines. And that maybe can help them. Sometimes it's hard for them too to do inside the lines. So it can be helpful in many ways, other than just forgetting everything and drawing.
Yeah.
Or coloring, I mean.
Yeah, I know for some people, the slight bit of guidance they're offered with some coloring books, and there's a wide variety of like detail that you can find in the whole market. That little bit of directive can really help sort of like take the edge off of that. Like, I think that if I was to create something just based entirely on my own like thoughts and feelings and opinions, then it will be judged harshly, and that will reflect on my thoughts and feelings and opinions. So it's almost sort of like a little bit of like a safety blanket, and I've seen people make that transition from things like coloring books into more loose expressive forms of art.
Yeah, I mean, like, a coloring page is a lot less intimidating than a blank piece of paper.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Blank canvas
We
is
all
like
know that
the
with a
most
blank canvas.
intimidating.
Yeah.
Is there any other sort of like final or closing points you want to make about your practice, or really just anything in general?
Well, let's see. That's a good question. I have to say that I think art saves lives, definitely. Being able to express yourself on paper, whether it's an art directive from a psychotherapist or it's just you scribbling on a piece of paper to get your frustrations out, or drawing in a coloring book to relax. It's very cathartic, therapeutic, and just very helpful for people. I'm surprised that more people aren't able to see the benefits of it, because it's very, very beneficial and helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think those are very, very wise words. I agree. I think a lot of people get it. There's like this mythology that art is a talent that you're born with. I really believe that like anybody can, start making art at any point in their life and be successful with it. And a lot of those like pressures that we're worried about or can be intimidated by so much that we don't even start, a lot of times they don't. I find that they're not as harsh as they might be, or as you might fear that they might be, or that as you practice and you begin to gain confidence, you gain the confidence also to overcome those criticisms that might come as well.
One of the key concepts that I've always really grabbed onto, both in speaking with other people about an artistic process and really working with myself on my own, is we set the parameters of our own success and failure as artists. Any kind of other sort of outward recognition is just frosting on the cake. For me, that's how I kind of approach my process. It works for me.
Yeah, and I think that putting a pencil to paper or a crayon to paper, you don't necessarily have to set off on being like, I'm making, a grand work of art. Like a lot of times I think this is something about like the communication that's inherent in, art is, it's just mark making, it's expressing yourself, whether that's for your own personal growth, it's for, to create a certain statement. But, I think that a lot of people can find benefit in that, and it doesn't have to be intimidating.
No, and I would say too that I've learned through my art, I would recommend and suggest to do your art for yourself. And if you like it, it's wonderful. If you don't like it, paint over it and do something else.
So true.
Because it's not the end of the world.
I think
So,
that is an excellent point.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely true.
I'll leave that as my parting thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just really appreciate you coming in and sharing your experience with us. And thanks so much for coming in. And it's good to see you again.
It's good to see
Yeah.
you too. Good to see you
Yeah,
guys.
our community of artists and the community of folks who are on the front lines of mental health are just both so important to all of our lives, whether I think we really realize it at face value or not. And it's very cool to have that be part of the Art Spot family. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys too. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Well, thank you all for joining us for this sort of dive into Zentangle and coloring and therapy and art as therapy.
How they all mix together and what they are and what they aren't.
And we hope that we inspired you to go out and maybe try something new, try some new things, and see if they stick with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one takeaway is don't be intimidated by a blank piece of paper and don't be intimidated to express yourself. Have fun, make art. Thanks for watching at Art Spot. If you like this video and want to see more like it, like us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our channel here. You'll get notified when we release new videos. We could really use your support, so thanks so much. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.